We're live.
Okay, welcome everybody to the the special meeting for the 20th of May 2025. Bienvenue tout le monde à la rencontre spéciale du 20 mai 2025. Madame Roy, est-ce qu'on peut commencer, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, parfait. Alors, je vais commencer avec les présences et vu que nous sommes réunis de façon virtuelle, je vais nommer chaque membre du conseil et vous pouvez me répondre si vous êtes présent. Alors, le maire Brière.
Oui.
Conseiller Stewart.
Present.
Conseiller Mainville.
Présent.
Conseiller Forgue.
Oui.
Conseiller Lalande.
Présent.
Présent. Parfait. Conseiller Boisvenu.
Présent.
Conseillère de relais.
Présente.
Parfait. Alors, tous les membres étant présents, nous pouvons passer à les additions et modifications de l'ordre du jour. Est-ce qu'il y a des additions ou des retraits ou des modifications?
OK.
Aucun de noté.
OK.
Parfait. Alors, qu'il soit résolu que l'ordre du jour soit accepté, incluant les modifications apportées séance tenante, le cas échéant, proposé par
Oui.
Monsieur Lalonde et proposé par
Monsieur Bainville. Tous d'accord? OK. Donc, on va y aller de l'avant.
OK, parfait. Donc, ensuite, c'est les intérêts pécuniaires. Est-ce qu'il y a à déclarer? Parfait.
OK. Super. Okay, so I think we can move on to the agenda item that's on the docket for us tonight. I'd like to welcome Mrs. Susan Gibson to our meeting to talk about the strategic plan that we've drawn up and basically to have a quick discussion about that. So welcome, Susan.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure to see you all. I want to do a few things tonight. The first is I want to remind you of the strategic planning process and locate where we are, which is close to the end, my friends, and there's been a lot of busy work to make this happen. Then I want to go back to the strategic plan, the shorter document that is intended to be posted up on the website and shared with all your stakeholders. You gave us some feedback at a previous meeting. We've made some edits and changes. We'd like to go over those, and we'd also like to review the mission and vision. Because you gave us fairly clear direction, and we hope we've nailed it this time. If not, we may need to bring that back. Once we get through that, we would then like to walk you through a milestones document, which is a document, as you've seen in a chart, that structures what we want to achieve against each strategic priority and each strategy within it for years 1, for years 3, and then year 7. And we tried to articulate a general outcome statement and a series of metrics or KPIs that we know we could measure now, and an indication of how we might come up with those KPIs and metrics as we get more into planning. At the end of that exercise, if there are no really substantive material changes, it may be a few things people want added. The council is invited to explore the idea of approving with a motion the 2 documents today. If there's a substantive changes or pieces of work that need to be done, we will take at least a week and possibly right into June. Pierre, I understand from our illustrious clerk that if we have major shifts to the mission and vision, we may bring that back in June. And then we will hopefully close the meeting with a very clear sense of final steps for the strategic plan to move forward and then move into operational planning. Does that sound okay for everyone in terms of a process? Okay. So just a reminder, all of us got into that wonderful, beautiful town hall, and we had a planning day in February. It was a fulsome day. There was a lot of discussion, group work. We got a matrix up on the wall that sort of laid out a vision for the municipality. And it was from that vision and from a series of questions and activities that we went away and drafted the strategic plan. That was done by a small team that met and wrote the 7-page strategic plan itself. We then, before we went ahead to milestones, we wanted your approval. So we did get feedback, and we've made changes to that strategic plan since then. And we worked from the structure of that plan, although there is a small change we made, which I will point out to you when we get there. We worked on the milestones. And again, a larger team, actually, I think there were up to 9 of us in the room at different points, weighed in on the various strategies, mapped them all out, and then took a more aggregate look at the end around achievability as we looked at all the various pieces and tried to, as concretely and pragmatically as possible, state what we thought was achievable for each priority given resources and capacity. And so we are here today, and I wanted to actually start with the strategic plan. And I wanted to remind you in reviewing it, there weren't actually that many significant changes. There were some requests around ensuring when we talk about investing in human resources that we do it within our fiscal realities. There was a comment or suggestion that we add neighboring municipalities. There were small tweaks that were made to the document. And all of those very specific edits or recommendations were made, and they were great additions. The piece that's really outstanding, unless anybody in rereading it has additional concerns, the piece that we really wanted to look at tonight was we provided you with about 3 or 4 mission and vision statements, and we got feedback. We did a little bit of a hand vote, and we got feedback, and we were asked to go back and take some clear direction on both the vision and the mission. And so certain phrases were appreciated by councillors and said, you know, this, we'd like to see this in here and we'd like to see it shorter. So I'm hoping that you can, is my Zoom large enough that you can see the 2 vision statements in front of you? Because what I'd like to do is read them and ask you if you have a preference. And I'm going to start with a vote to see if everybody all likes one, then we don't need to have a conversation. But if there's, I like one, but part of 2, and we did a bit of that last time, it's a bit of like cooking in the kitchen. So with the vision, we have a sustainable and united community where rural and urban landscapes work together to drive progress, embrace innovation, and create a thriving future for all. And then the second one, which is a little longer, but incorporated some feedback from a couple of councillors, is a sustainable and united community where rural and urban landscapes work together to drive progress, embrace innovation, and create a thriving future for all who live, work, and invest in the nation. So the second one's got a slightly longer element to it. Can I just ask, with a show of hands, how many people like Vision 1? And by the way, you will get a chance to say if you don't like either, you can also do that. But anybody that likes Vision 1 and would like to select that as a possible statement of where we want to be.
I do.
So I'm seeing 2 hands. Am I right? Let me just make sure. I've got to move between screens. Okay. And then let's go to Vision 2. Do people like Vision 2 better? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I'm seeing a preference for Vision 2, and my question would be, with consensus in mind, those of you who chose 1, could you live with Vision 2? Or is there something significantly frustrating about Vision 2 where you're like, no, I can't live with this, we need to do something different? So yeah.
For me, I would say that Vision 1, what we wanted, I thought was something shorter. And I feel like Vision 1 is shorter, straight to the point, and it means the same thing as Vision 2. So it doesn't really matter which one we pick. In my mind, it says the same message. I just felt like Vision 1 was just a thriving future for all versus a thriving future for all who lives and work and invest in a nation. I feel like it's just like stretching it, but it means the same. So to me, I'm okay with either. I just thought Vision 1 flows better.
Thank you for that, Councillor Lalonde. I think you had your hand up as well, and I know that you weighed in on one.
Yeah, it's just because, the first one is straight to the point, like Marjorie said. And if you look at the second one, all it does is it adds who lives, works, and invests in the nation. So, you start pinpointing certain elements like live, work, and invest in the nation. You'll get someone say, okay, well, they're not thinking about me because I'm not living in the nation, but I'm renting, and how come I'm not mentioned in there? And you start getting into nitty-gritty stuff. And then the first one it's the same thing as the second one, but there's not that little pinpoint stuff that because it's for all. So we're talking about the nation, and it's for all.
Okay, so to my other councillors in the room, you've heard 2 of your colleagues build a case for why they think 2 might not be the option. They prefer a shorter version. Does anybody in those who voted for the second option wish to change their opinion, or do you want to stay with the first vision, your first vote? So if you would be willing to flip to the shorter version, can I see if your hand goes up? Aha, Councillor Boisvenu. Anybody else? 2. So we now have 4. Oh, okay. Councillor Manville, you're sort of in. So would it be fair to say, and this is now another moment of consensus, can we then live with the shorter vision, and would this council endorse this vision statement? Are you comfortable with it? Is there anything else that you would like to add, or because we can always go back and try and tweak it again? Yes, I see Councillor Boisvenu.
Yeah, I think I would be able to live with one, as we do touch the live, work, and invest further in the document itself, where we talk about the economic development and all. So I agree with the first version. I'd be okay with that. The reason I chose 2 is because it did pinpoint the live, work, and invest in the nation. But as I, scrolled through the document, and now that hear Councillor Drolet and Councillor Lalonde speak, I'd be good with 1, as we are touching that a little bit further down. So
Okay, thank you for that feedback. Is there anyone who went out with the vote for the other one that cannot live with this? Because I'm going to move to a consensus sort of agreement that we are going to go with the shorter one. Unless somebody speaks up and has a different perspective, can you live with the shorter first vision statement? I'm hearing silence, which leads me to believe, are we okay with?
Me, I can leave it to the number 1. If, like Lalonde and Marjorie tell, I think that good point too.
Okay, merci beaucoup. So for the moment now, I want you to keep your eye on the vision statement that's number 1, which is the one for the moment we've chosen. And I make that point because when we look at the mission statement, I want to remind you they always sit side by side. So you sometimes might tinker with the mission depending on the vision you select. So just want to make that point before we move into a discussion of the mission statement. And again, we were given some very select concepts that were important to you as a group. Please keep these, but keep it short. We were told to try and shorten these, and that's always the challenging part. We have 2 to put forward to you. One is forward-thinking sustainable services provided through meaningful partnerships and strategic growth to empower current and future generations. And the second one is delivering forward-thinking sustainable services through meaningful partnerships and responsible progress to empower current and future generations. Some similarities and some slight variances. So can I start by just checking in and saying who likes the first mission statement best? Could I ask you to raise your hand so we can get a sense of what appeals to people? So I've got 4. Wow. Okay. I'm going to go and I'm going to ask the mayor directly. Tell me about mission statement 2 and why you like it better.
Quite honest, I don't really have a strong feeling. I think they both say the same things. I mean, strategic and responsible, whenever you're looking at the context of the sentence, it means the same. So I don't think it, for me, it was a word delivering that made the difference. But it makes no difference to me. I think they both have the same essence and message in them. So I'm fine with either one.
Okay. It looks like, my friends, I'm going to take this as a moment of complete consensus. We've all agreed. So we're going to go with the shorter vision 1, and then we will go with the forward-thinking sustainable services mission statement together, and they'll sit side by side in various materials that go out and sit on your website. One thing I wanted to point out, we did make a change to this document that you do not know about. You might have noticed if you cross-referenced it. I'm just going to move us down. When we started working on the milestones, we realized that we felt that we were better off taking, so if you look at strategic priority B, item 2, streamline internal communications, in the format or the version that you approved previously, that was actually in C. And we thought, you know what, if we don't get internal communication streamlined and efficient, it will impact our ability to inform the community. And so we chose to move it up. We felt it was better integrated there. So it's more of where it's located. And what I mean by that is when we talk about up in the actual body of the document, communications, we talk about internal communications as sort of a foundational piece to support that work. It just made more sense operationally to the group. And I wanted to make sure before we give this a general sign off that you're comfortable with this reallocation of that particular strategy within the priority. And again, if you can give us a thumbs up or a hands up, and that'll give me a sense of if there's any reason at all that you have any concerns about its location. We generally good with this? It just made much more sense to us in the process. Can I just, before whether we decide we're going to do a motion and do a formal approval by the end of the meeting or not, but can I just get a sense of agreement from this group that we're comfortable now with this document, given the choice of mission and vision, this slight restructure, and the amendments that we made based on your feedback last time? Okay, I'm seeing happy hands. Little hands, happy smiling hands. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now. I'm going to move to, let me just get my, now please tell me that you can see, can you see a chart? Please tell me you can see my chart. Yes, can you see, I can see it now. Okay, so one of the things then was, after we got through drafting this, it became a question of who do we need to bring into the room to talk about what fundamentally needs to happen to make this plan work, and how do we see us scoping and scaling the work out. And so the premise was, let's take each priority and then look at within each strategy, and then identify what we call sort of bundled areas of activity within each strategy, and then map out what we think we can achieve over years 1, year 3, year 7. Let's try and sort of put a general outcome statement that's, why are we ultimately doing this? What's the end outcome we want? And then where possible, let's document what we think could be viable metrics or KPIs, key performance indicators. Now, one of the things I want to state, which is fairly obvious, but it's important, is that it's hard to put a metric on a plan that hasn't been written. And in fact, when you do your planning, you work in your value, as you know, you work in your evaluation, you work in your metrics at that point. So as you read this document, there'll be points where there'll be clear statements of this is, we have a goal here, or we know we want to achieve this, or this is something we will measure. But in a few cases where there are planning processes and the plan hasn't been developed, without knowing what those strategies are, it's hard to know what you would measure. So it's hard to have the metrics. So we've done our best, and where we can't name them, and there's a planning process, we make a point around the fact that you will see this when the plan evolves. So when you look at priority A, providing core services, the very first strategy fundamentally around asset and financial management strategies, a very big theme at the February meeting. Fiscal responsibility and financial management was a very large theme with a lot of cards, and so we spent quite a bit of time on this. And you'll see in front of you, the ultimate goal is really to be proactive and forward-thinking. This is language you used, ensuring that we have foundationally the policies, the data, the funding, to really enable forward-thinking planning, to look ahead, to reduce risk, and to do what I would call strategic investment in the municipality's future. I am not going to read this page at you. We would be here all night, but you'll see there's a whole mapping exercise which involves, asset management planning, budgeting, looking at reserve and reserve funding, making sure that funding gaps are addressed, the investment policies are in place. So you'll see a series of activities that ultimately lead to year 7, where you've got a good database that's up to date and supports strategic decision making financially. An actual goal of a funding gap being reduced by at least 40%. A full life cycle costing system and integrated into capital planning, and also considering environmental realities of what's going on out there. And then a lot of work done on the asset management work and being aligned to provincial legislation. The little smaller fonts name who's responsible for each area. We tried to do that to keep it succinct, just to sort of share who owns what in the process. So what I would like to do, with your permission, is ask you a couple of questions. I'd like to check in and find out, do you have any questions of clarity? Did you read this and say, I don't know what that is, or could you explain the thinking behind this? Because we'd like to give you an opportunity to ask questions before I check in and see if you feel like anything's missing, or you want to change anything, or you'd like something adopted. So let's start with questions first. Is it all fairly clear, or did anybody have any multiple questions for me? Pretty clear? Okay. I'm going to take it. My next question would be, I'm going to take it then. Was there anything as you read it that you felt was missing or incoherent in its thinking? Like you're like, this has got to change. It doesn't make sense to me, or I'd like to see something readjusted.
Are we only talking about the asset management? Is that
only the
okay.
At this point, I'm going to do page by page, and so we'll get into a rhythm. It'll move much more quickly. But if there's anything on this particular one where you're feeling okay, I'm going to take it that we're okay with that. Now I've just lost my visual. Hang on. Okay, so now let's move us to this. That was the asset management piece. The next one, you'll recall, when we met in February, there was quite a bit of discussion around really wanting to understand the demographic profile and the data, more data to have the knowledge you need to make good decisions. And so you'll see here a mapping out process for developing a demographic profile and getting the kind of demographic data and data sets that you need to make good decisions. So you'll see a variety of outcomes and activities that lead to year 7, where there's literally some comprehensive demographic data that's available on the website that helps inform decisions. That and also business registry would be aligned to this, with the idea that you have what you need to begin to do more significant planning going forward. And this capacity builds year to year. And again, I'm just going to check in and see if anybody has any questions or clarity before I open up to see if there's any concerns about what's listed here. Okay, any comments or feedback on this in terms of wanting to see this look different?
My question, it comes down to the demographic profile of our staff members who would perform that task, because I don't think there's anybody on staff right now that would be able to do those types of things. I mean, you will be able to pull it off of StatsCan website, I guess, but I've always doubt those numbers. I don't feel like they're very accurate and they really reflect our community. So who would be able to work in the weeds to do that? I'm not quite sure.
Mayor, it's an excellent question. We talked about what was available when we met in the room. We talked about what we thought we could access. And CAO LaRue also felt it might be important to bring in some expertise and to pull some data with some external support. But I will let our illustrious CAO respond to that.
Thank you, Suzanne, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The OMAFRA, the Ontario Municipal Affairs, often has grants for this type of project, which is called the RED program. And I've seen it used elsewhere. If ever you've seen the Russell website, they have a section called Townfolio that people and businesses are able to go access all that information. Basically, that's one example of a company that will go curate all that information and stuff. So our goal would really to apply for a grant to be able to do this with a third party, because you're right, à l'interne, we don't have the resources to go do this. So this would be based on getting either third party help through a grant, or depending on the budget year during the 7-year period, it might be something we try for multiple years to get a grant and we're not able to, and council feels that future council feels it's really important to get it done and might just budget it at that point in time. But the goal is to try and get a grant as soon as possible to be able to put something like that in place.
Okay, good.
It's a great question.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I'm going to move us to any feedback. Are we comfortable with what we see here in terms of scope of work and scale of work over the 7-year period? Okay. Once the screen starts moving, I'm moving on to the next one for us. Okay. Planning and policies. One of the things that came up, particularly when we met in the room, is that there are a number of significant planning and policy pieces that needed to be worked on. And planning was, again, another very large theme in that February meeting around making sure certain things are really thought through and planned out in the long term. So you will see a series of activities related to really strengthening policies and plans to guide growth and to support services. And the very first phase of this is getting very clear about core services and levels of service. And that'll be the first year. And then from there, you'll see a variety of activities flowing out that impact, road assessment, transportation master plans, variety of pieces that were identified as needing more focus, a fleet management strategy, a building conditions assessment. And then ensuring that there's a continual review cycle for all the key plans and a costing cycle that keeps everything up to date and coherent. So again, any questions of clarity on this one before I ask if there's any feedback or suggested changes? Okay, I don't see any hands. I'm going to move us to the next segment.
Sorry,
sorry, go for it.
No, for me, I think a suggested change should be a transportation master plan in our urban areas, because I don't think we need a master plan for our concession roads, and I think it needs to be more concentrated, maybe more focused.
Okay.
Because we have a very large transportation network, and I think a master plan should be probably more specific and targeted, because we have various needs in different areas, and I just maybe if, let's say, our urban area gets the transportation act plan first, or I don't know how they want to roll it out, but this seems like a very big undertaking. If you look at it, I think it'd be more specific. That way, we're more focused on where we need to put more attention going forward.
Thank you for that feedback. CAO LaRue, I see you. I have a feeling you want to say something, so I'm going to let you jump in.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Good point, Mayor Bidillard. We do have on the call, we have our engineer, Monsieur Graton, on board. We are about to go to tender for a transportation master plan, and it is for the village of Limoges. I don't think at any point in time we talked about a transportation master plan for the entire municipality. We are doing a roads assessment, but the transportation master plan is pretty much for Limoges, unless from a planning perspective or an engineering perspective, there's thought that we should be doing it for the entire municipality. I don't believe that was the case. I'm not sure if Monsieur Graton would like to speak to that.
Mr. Leroux, Mr. Mayor, to answer your question, that's exactly as Mr. Leroux said. We're going to concentrate on the urban areas for the transportation master plan, because that's where the requirement is more than the rural. So as of right now, we're going to do the road condition assessment for everywhere, but the master plan themselves, we're planning on doing village by village for the urban areas.
Given that comment, I would suggest, though, that we put something along the lines of the transportation master plan focused on our urban areas, so that it contains that concept, so we can make that amendment, if a friendly amendment, if you're okay with that, Mayor. Okay, I think that's a great feedback. Any other comments on this one? Okay, I'm going to move us to our next little bundle of activity, and this whole idea of municipal partnering with your neighbors and getting more strategic around how you can come together, integrate activities, save money, and create better services. So this one maps out a strategy around, investigating what could be done and how it could be done, and then sort of shortlisting those best things, coming up with a shared service agreements that a appropriate partner is really into, and then beginning to instigate those activities. So this is more high level. It maps out sort of key steps to get there, but it's going to have to get rolling before more significant stuff comes forward. And I would think in the first 3 years, you'll get a really clear sense of who you're working with and what you're doing. I didn't know, CAO LaRue, if you wanted to animate this a bit, because I know this one excites you. So I don't know if you want to bring it to life.
Thank you very much. Well, as the mayor knows and members of council know, we're doing a service delivery review with the counties. So we do see potential partnerships available, whether it's with the United Counties or with our neighboring municipalities. But I think there's definitely opportunities to work together, in reducing costs overall. We're looking for those opportunity where it's two partners come together and it's a win-win scenario. So that's essentially in this plan, is to give us direction to continue having those discussions and trying to lay out the groundwork for those type of partnerships. Some might be small, some might be big, but time will tell as to which direction we'll go in.
Any comments or questions on this section? Okay, I'm going to move us to the next piece, which is collaboration with community leaders. So this is really focused on facilities, recreational, community services-based activities, and moving towards doing more with less by engaging citizens and residents in community-led programs. You'll see a variety of things in here around the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and then animating it, and also working with committees and boards more fulsomely to get their input on things, and the school boards as well to leverage public resources. So it's along that realm of activity that this whole piece focuses on, and it will result in accessibility improvements, and I think, you know, more meaningful services that are led by community members themselves. I don't know if people had questions about this first before I take any suggestions or feedback.
Well, I got a little bit of feedback as far as the standalone community centers. That's great. But I think also we need to maybe talk about creating, I don't know if committee is the right word, or partnerships with groups of every village or every community to help delivering services, or help because part of our thinking is that you know, like we're giving the standalone buildings to different communities, but that in the communities of Saint-Isidore and Limoges, that we have community involvement to help along with those as well. So just to explore, I don't know if that's the right term, or try to forge relationships, or you know, I think it needs to be expressed that we need to explore those things and ask and try to get buy-in from all communities in order for them to be all treated equally and given the same opportunities.
I really appreciate that comment, and in fact, I think that was definitely discussed by the group, but it's not named explicitly, and I think it should be. I'm going to defer to CA LaRue because I think you might want to comment on this one as well.
Thank you very much. Well, if you look at year 3, we do have community-led programming and partnerships have been developed to attract people. Right now, we felt that in years 25 and 26, the standalone community centers were the priority to get that up and running. But definitely in the following years, we're looking at other opportunities to involve the public. You know, we've already started looking at other potential partnerships that are not the community centers as well, to see if we can, if there's potential partnerships there. So definitely top of mind for the administration and the rec department to see how we can build that stronger relationship with our communities.
And given that comment, Mr. Mayor, would you like a sentence added around explicitly around trying to partner? Because what you're getting at is equity across the region.
Well, I
right?
think again, it's just a matter of, I think I'd like to have a snippet in the 25, 26, just to make sure that we're exploring those relationships and seeing what that looks like. That's it. You know,
Okay.
I don't think it needs to be a hard line in the sand, but knowing that we are exploring and where that everyone is it's equitable, I guess is the word, somewhat a little bit, but because again, it wouldn't be a fair expectation that the standalone communities get asked to take over there without having at least the conversations and the building of momentum in the others as we go forward.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lalonde, I see your hand.
Yeah, it's because yeah, I agree that the top priority is the standalone community centers, but like the mayor just said, we can still sort of have, like, maybe not, it's not the top priority, but we're already thinking about the community groups and partnering with the community groups. So you know, it's mentioned in 28, 29, but why not start, you know, raising our hand and having discussions with the community groups.
Okay, fabulous. A great note. CA LaRue, you're next.
Yeah, if I understand completely what Mayor and Councillor are saying, we could essentially just copy that middle part and add it to 2026, year one, instead of saying have been developed, are being developed. So we're going from doing the work, then we've established by 2029, we've established these. So it just transitions from starting to accomplishing.
Is that adequate and satisfactory to everybody? Okay, thank you so much. Excellent feedback. Any other thoughts or comments on this section? Okay. I'm now going to move us to economic development. So it looks short, but there was a lot of discussion around this piece, by the way, just so you know. You will see the idea of the end goal is becoming a destination for meaningful investment by creating space for business and residential growth. And this involves investing in infrastructure and unlocking land potential. So you'll see the innovation park phases rolling out over the course of this time frame. You'll see trying to really build an environment that's conducive to development, so investing in the infrastructure, and then also really doing an understanding fully municipally owned land and having an inventory. So there's a series of things that go on leading to year 7, which would ultimately really set you up for greater impact with economic development, because you'd have the conditions and you'd have the environment that is and the infrastructure to support that kind of growth. And also the idea that one project identified in municipal-led land development strategy is underway. So this is what the groups sort of finally mapped out. It was quite a rich discussion. It looks very short and snippy, but I can assure you there was a lot of debate around how this rolls out. And I didn't know if anybody had, again, any questions before we move into comments or feedback. Any questions?
I got some feedback.
Okay.
I love what was written. I would like to add maybe seek partnerships with the developers to find co-funding possibilities. That kind of like how they can invest in our infrastructure before. Perfect example like would be in Embrun where Robert Excavating he basically front loaded a lot of the infrastructure cost in order to develop land further. I think that could be something that we could look into as well, because I know we have some very eager developers that want to get into the nation, and I think this could be a way of, if we can seek out those partnerships and maybe we can forge a path that's going to be a little bit quicker than if we did it on our own.
And in fact, these types of discussions and partnerships and all, like the creative elements of all this, but not explicitly stated the way you're suggesting it be in here. And I think it's a very good amendment. CEO LaRue, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good comment. We're essentially talking about upfront agreements, which is something we can definitely, I think it was inherently planned to be part of our thought process of looking for those upfront agreements, because we are, our debt capacity is getting tight. No, we can definitely add something in there. I'm not sure if it would be under economic development, provide core services, or maybe somewhere else in the document, but we can definitely add something about investigating upfront agreements with potential investors.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other thoughts or comments? Okay, I am now going to move us to, we've now gotten through priority A, which is quite a substantive, it's really substantive piece of work. You'll recall in February, there was a lot of discussion around really wanting to have better communications with all external stakeholders, particularly residents, and council made that a very explicit priority. And so it's sitting as its own strategic priority with 2 elements, external communications and internal. And again, this may not look like a lot because there's, we got planning pieces, but this was a very fulsome discussion had by across the whole entire team around getting a website up and that's really accessible and for ease of access, but then putting in place in year 1 a really substantive, as robust as possible given resource limitations, an external communications plan, which you would all be, looking at and amending and adopting. But it would be a robust plan that looks at multiple ways of communication, multiple strategies, and some of them are listed here. And then once that was approved, then moving into implementing it as much as possible for ease of access and to ensure that residents are finding what they need. And then also, if it is something that grows substantively, is really exploring, will we need more human resources? Do we have the viability and the feasibility of funding to support additional resources? But this was a big discussion point. So you'll see this sort of mapped out over the 7 years. And because there isn't a plan in hand, it's hard to tell you exactly what it's going to look like, but there's certainly a lot of excitement for doing it. So I don't know if anybody had questions or comments. I think this will be an interesting piece of work for council to be involved in over the next year as it emerges and to provide input into it. Are we good with this one? I always laugh because, we'll just do a little external communications plan. They're usually fairly intense, but I think it'll be great. And then the internal communications piece is really about internal systems and structures and creating greater integration across departments, greater connectivity, ensuring that we're hearing from staff what they need around internal communications, and then really making sure that systems support efficiency around communications and integration. So you see things around SharePoint, eScribe, some more platforms and technology-based activities, and then really just getting much more integrated around how the group communicates across teams, and then communication tools and protocols have become more standardized and people know where to find them and look for them. So this is really about making sure staff are connected and informed, and council's getting what they need because the information's flowing in all directions. Any comments on this one? Or questions? It's sort of the foundational work. Okay, I'm going to move along. Our very last strategic priority was all the sort of foundational capacity building work that really results in a strong organization that's able to deliver. And it's number 3 because it's not the work itself, but it's central to getting the work done. So you'll see a whole piece here on workforce investment. And there was quite a lot of HR-based activities up on the wall from that February meeting. So you'll see a variety of things around looking at staffing structures, having more robust HR policies and procedures, a staff survey that gets, provides employee experience and feedback. There are things in here like exit interviews, just a whole medley of activities that will broaden out your HR capacity so that people are getting what they need professionally to develop and grow and be the best they can be. You've got an absolutely fabulous team, by the way, and I think this is a wonderful investment because all of these things will just take it all up an extra notch. And this, of course, will only be done as capacity, with funding and HR capacity as your fiscal realities, as you face your fiscal realities. But there's a whole series of activities here, and I didn't know if anybody had questions or any particular comments. Oh, yes. Okay. Councillor Drolet, yes.
It's more about the exiting interview. I feel like this is something that a lot of companies oversee, and I feel like we've learned so much from doing these. I think this is something we should really try to implement in our organization, because I think it's the best metrics. Like, this is what you're going to learn, what you want to learn. So.
And can I check in, Councillor Drolet? There's a real appetite to do it. Was your thought that it be done by a third-party group? Did you want to see that added, or was it that you just wanted to ensure it happens?
I guess it depends on like the circumstances around like why the person's leaving as well. So I think sometimes there are a reason, a way that sometimes we can't do them, sometimes we can. I guess that would be based on our HR and CAO, whatever they see fit to do for that aspect. But I think it's something that we should emphasize and we should do as much as we can.
Okay,
when
great
possible.
Feedback. Thank you for that. Great feedback. Other thoughts or comments? Councillor Drolet, I'm going to assume that there does not require to be a change because we make a point in the column on metrics, but I appreciate you bringing light to it. I think it's important feedback for staff.
Okay. Councillor Boisvenu wants to comment.
Now, Yeah, the only comment I have, and I mean, I know I spoke with Monsieur Leroux and council about this in the past, and I don't know if it fits here, but I know we talk about the exit interview, and we've talked about in the past how we do our hiring, right, Monsieur Leroux, and the acknowledgement of applications and stuff like that. And I think it's an important part from beginning to end, right, when you go to the exit interview. I just don't know if it has a spot here. Now, I know that Monsieur Leroux and when we spoke with HR agreed that we do need to look at that policy, and I know we are doing some of that stuff right now. But what do you think, Monsieur Leroux? Does that sort of have a spot here, or shall we?
For you, Mr. Mayor, Monsieur Councillor Boisvenu. So in regards to the hiring policy, council approved it, and it's a living document, right? So in conjunction with the HR department, we're continuously, if we need to make changes or tweaks or that kind of stuff, definitely exit interviews will be part of the hiring policy and the whole HR plan. So I don't think we need something necessarily here. But it will be something that we're cognizant of. I know that based on the feedback, the auto replies, that kind of stuff, that's already been implemented and stuff. So I don't think it necessarily has to be highlighted there, as we've already taken that step.
Good. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent point. Other comments? Councillor Lalonde.
Yeah, maybe one thing to keep in mind is as the exit interviews are planned and conducted, sometimes, depending on certain situations or circumstances, it might be a good idea to, because you asked the question who would be conducting them, you said, and you mentioned HR or not sure if you said the exec committee or what, but sometimes there's a lot more benefit and there's more points to be brought up when it's conducted by a third party, third neutral party, because some points might come out there instead of coming out when the HR team is conducting them.
I completely concur with that, having worked in lots of organizations. And my sense of, and I'm going to go back to Councillor Drolet, in asking you, you thought you would leave it, that there would be an option to do either, depending on the circumstances, and you'd leave it to both the CAO and if it was a contentious issue, the mayor to make that decision as the time. Yeah.
But I'm thinking more budget, like going to a third party, there goes fees, right, as well. So, I mean, if need be, we could have like a third party at some point, but I guess it all depends of each individual, right? The reason they're leaving and how they're leaving also. But yeah, definitely if it's a third party all the time, I think you'll get the most out of it. You'll get more information. They won't be holding anything back because it's with someone they don't know.
So I would encourage council, as the plan rolls and you get into operations, these issues will come up in more fulsome color as things emerge. So just to remember that this conversation was had. Fair enough. Anything else on the HR? There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of work to do here. Okay, I'm going to move us to our next bundle, which is modernization. And this is really the recognition that there's certain technologies and efficiencies that need to be put in place to create online services, automation, and the focus, as you'll see, is digitized HR processes, administrative monetary program systems, permits and applications, recreational booking systems, speed cameras, things that will make things easier for residents to access services and use services, but also for staff to increase their efficiencies in terms of, manual can just be painful. So we mapped out all the various things that we saw happening, and you'll see the idea that hopefully the technology is well structured and in place and is creating an easier operational structure for staff, and then also making it just a flow of ease and comfort for the users, which would be predominantly residents and staff as well. Any comments or concerns or questions on this section? I always laugh because it's kind of dry, but it's actually, once you get it up and in running, it's so exciting because it just makes such a difference. Okay, so I'm going to move us along then. And then the strategic plan reporting. Now, this was also a point in February. The group very strongly recommended that we make sure that this plan has a reporting structure to it. So one of the reasons we did this whole sort of milestones document was to give you a very clear indication of what will be happening. It makes it easier as council to make sure you're on track or what's behind what's working. But additionally, to give you a sense of how will those measures take place. So there will be a formal strategic planning report, and it will present key focused, and it will be, this document will be designed. I'm going to let our illustrious CAO speak to this, but it will be designed once you approve this plan, and it'll be something that comes to you on a very regular basis to review year to year, so that you know where you're doing, how you're doing. Some groups used, green, red, and yellow on strategies to kind of identify we're on target, we're ahead of target. Some things move quickly, some things are slower. But I will let CAO LaRue speak to this because this is a piece that I know is personally important to him.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Yes, definitely reporting structure for council. Obviously, the strategic plan is the marching orders for municipal staff. And we want to report to council because these are the directions you've given us. Now, anytime I'll continuously be referring back to the strategic plan. For example, in 2 years' time, council turns around and says, we want to build a pool. The pool was nowhere on our strategic plan. So you have to remember when you're adding things to the strategic plan, my perception will always be to, okay, if we're adding a new priority, what does it replace? Because the plan that's presented in front of you is something that is above the day-to-day operations, right? This is stuff that we're working towards, but we still have to take care of all the daily routine of running the municipality. So just to keep that in mind, if there's something specifically, big project, something you have in mind that you would want to see after we finalize that and we start getting it further down into the weeds at some point in time, we'll just have to make sure that what is operationally viable. It might be additional resources, whether it's human resources or financial resources or third-party resources, whatever the case is. But we wanted to put a reporting section in here to make it clear that every year we're coming to council saying, here's where we are with our strategic plan. Maybe because of, year X, it's a tough year budget-wise, we don't have the resources. Well, we might have to move one of the year 3, 4, 5 targets to 6, 7, or 8, for example. So this is the kind of guidance we're taking from this document. So that's how I see us reporting to council on an ongoing basis, is really to give a clear picture to council where we are in the process. And as Suzanne said, probably red, yellow, and green to let easily for council and easy for the public to know where we are, giving any specific target.
Any questions or comments or concerns? Any changes required? Councillor Dorlet?
Yeah, just one more thing. We talked about it a little bit, I guess, earlier in the documents, but it's on page 7 of 22, our current context.
In the strategic plan document itself,
That's
the formal
right.
document? Okay, yes.
I guess page 2 of the document.
Okay, do you want me to pull that up for you? Let me get
it's up to you, it doesn't matter. I have it in front of me there, but
okay.
It was more about, we talked about like our current context, where we're at, where we are, our vibrant community and the different businesses. I just wanted to make sure before we decide this is the final one, I don't know if Mr. Laflèche has a lot of memory about all the businesses we have, Mr. Mayor as well, and maybe each councillor in their own words, but are we missing one that if it's not noted and listed there, we listed a few, but did we list everyone that we wanted to list? I just want to make sure we're not leaving one out that we should have written or that we didn't write, just so we don't offend any big companies that we have in our big communities and in our nation municipality.
It's a great question. Anybody identifying anything missing? I have it up on the screen. It's 4 paragraphs that really talks about the municipality, but then moves into the business sector. and list
I feel
Calypso
like,
Park.
if we go in details sometime, I feel it could become a little bit tricky.
Definitely, Councillor de Relais, we could look into it to make sure that all the big companies are in. It's a good question, actually, because the last time we did our work was in 2017, 18, before COVID. So, yeah, we're going to look into it.
Thank you.
Excellent point. Thank you for that. I'm going to just check in and make sure, was everybody comfortable with the end of the discussion as it pertains to the strategic plan reporting process? Okay, so I want to summarize for you a few things, and then I have a couple of just high level questions, and then I'm going to propose, we can propose what the next step should be. I want to emphasize that to the point just made, a listing of those businesses will be looked at and amendments will be made to make sure that any key corporations or businesses or key players in the area are reflected in the document, not to leave them out. So that will change. We will adapt the mission and the vision so that it reflects the ones you've chosen. And then when it comes to the milestones document, we will look at including, and there's really only 4 changes I think that I've got noted here. The transportation master plan will have a section a small addition that says focused on urban areas. So we name that strategically. On page 5, related to services through collaboration, we'll have a snippet, as CA LaRue suggested, around developing those partnerships in years 1 and 2, so that in year 3 we're in good stead for that work. So that would be added into that segment. On page 6, conditions for business, we would somewhere in the document, and I'm going to defer to CA LaRue, but it would be seeking partnerships and the idea of upfront agreements, and it would be, for example, with developers, but making sure that that's a little bit more robust in the document, either here or elsewhere where it makes sense. And then I'm not going to suggest that there be any changes made to the exit interviews, but that this is a discussion you may have as things unfold, and that becomes a strategy as it continues. So now we've got very particular feedback, and I have 2 very key questions I need to ask Council now that we've dug down. When you look at this plan, does it reflect what you want to see as councillors? We spent a day mapping out what we wanted to see. Your senior team has worked really hard to try and reflect back to you what they heard. Do you feel that what you have set forth that day in terms of a vision, and we also sent you the raw data so you can go back and look, is there anything at large missing, or is there anything that you would like to have added or lifted up or modified given your shared vision or your individual sense of where you think things should be going? And if you're feeling satisfied, you can put your thumb up and say, it's all there, but I just want to make a space for sort of, because it's one thing to look at each segment, it's another thing to stand back and look at the big picture. Oh, yeah, CA LaRue, go for it.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Suzanne. I just want to make sure that, this is, in my opinion, is a very foundational based approach. This is, we, as a municipality in full growth, we want to make sure we have a solid foundation for the future. So by being able to set up our policies, our way forward, once that is done, by the time you get around to the next strategic plan, then you'll be better positioned to go after a lot of those nice to haves, the bigger projects and the more focused on the community, community projects and infrastructure, that kind of stuff. So I think this is, in my mind, it's very foundational so that we're on the right path moving forward, and we're very proactive. We're not necessarily reactive. So that's my thoughts on the document. I think that was a focus that we heard over and over again, is that we want to be viable long-term, not just, focus on the wants and ignore the needs, but have it really reversed. We deal with what we need to deal with, and then as we build capacity, then we'll be able to go after all the nice to haves. So in my opinion, I think this is a wonderful document. I think staff had incredible discussions on it. Suzanne was wonderful for leading those discussions. And I think this is something that from a staffing perspective, we truly believe in that this will get us that right footing and that right direction. So I just wanted to add those thoughts.
Thank you, Sierra LaRue. Does anybody, my last question is, did anybody have any final comments, suggestions, thoughts, just anything that's emerging? I mean, this is the thing. We're signing off on this. We're on our way. We're starting into an exciting process. This is an opportunity to share any insights or thoughts that you would like to with your peers at council or with the senior team who are all online listening and looking for continued advice and direction from you and your leadership. So.
I'm pretty satisfied with what's there now.
Okay.
Quite honestly, I think it's good. I'll echo what Pierre said as far as this is the foundation, and when you're looking at building municipalities and capacity, this is I won't say it's at its infancy, but it's basically the basics to really build something solid going forward, and because the fruits of this document may be seen in 7 years, and we may not all be here, and some of us will and some of us won't, either from staff or council, but knowing that we had to put this in place in order to achieve what we want, and the 7-year mark is pretty exciting for me.
Thank you. Anybody else want to share? I'm going to propose, there are two possible routes you could take at this moment. You could say to Sierra LaRue and the staff team, go away, make some of these small edits and bring it back. Or you could actually pass a motion ratifying the document based on the fact that the direction's been set with those 4 changes, the mission and the vision. And it's entirely up to the group. And I don't know, Sierra LaRue, I defer to you what your preference might be. The feedback isn't substantively tricky. That's the only thing I could say is I think it'd be quite easy to make those amendments, but I'll look to you for what you would suggest process-wise.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. I think the changes are minor, but since we have a council meeting already booked for next week, and there's no significant changes, I'm not at the meeting next week, but I would be comfortable with staff just putting those slight changes in place, presenting it to council for approval Monday night if council is okay with that.
Mr. Mayor, are you okay with that? Process-wise, and I see people nodding.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think,
okay.
Like I said, the essence of what the document hasn't changed much based on our conversations here. So I think I'm comfortable going forward for sure. Like I said, if it's not a word here or word there that changes much, it's more, like I said, I think the essence and the energy of the document is it is what it is.
Okay, thank you. You go for it.
Sorry, so I'll just add, obviously, tomorrow is normally when the next agenda would come out. So we might need a little bit extra time to put the final touches on it. So you might receive it either on Friday or Monday. But again, the changes aren't significant. So staff will be able to put something together for council's consideration on Monday evening.
Fabulous. I'm going to pass it over to our mayor to close, but I do want to say, c'était un grand plaisir pour moi. You're an amazing group of people. You're all out doing things for your community. I'm really impressed with your dedication, your passion, and I'm really pleased to see your staff team so passionate and dedicated and wanting to do great work. I can't wait to see what you do, and I'm going to be keeping my eye on you guys for the next 7 years. So I just want to wish you well and say it's been an inordinate privilege and pleasure. And I'll pass it over to the mayor to close now. Thanks,
Suzanne. I feel the same way. Like I said, we're quite lucky to have the staff that we have, and also council has always been cohesive, and there's always a spirit of wanting to do the right thing. So we're quite lucky. Okay, I think I'll reference Madame Roy now to close the session.
Okay, so we won't adopt a resolution regarding the draft, seeing as we'll bring it back next week. So in that case, are there any announcements from the members of council? No, that could wait till, okay. So in that case, the next meeting will be next Monday on May 26th. And all items being discussed, the meeting is now concluded at 5:05 p.m.
Great.
Thanks and take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening.